Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Spotlight Games podcast. Today we're talking about Final Fantasy VII's next fucking 9 games. I finished the Quarry, so I'm going to give you all the details on why you need to play this game and the rest of this week's news. I'm your host, Patrick, and as always, I am joined by my sweet dumpster boy, DB Darty Cayman.
Woo!
How do you
like
go with that? DB Darty, dumpster boy.
I like it. Honestly, I might change my name to that.
DB?
Yeah, can you imagine that being on my driver's license and I go to the bar and they're like, "Can we see your ID?" and it's just like dumpster boy Darty.
Look, if all you need is one person's support, you already have it, and it's mine.
All right, that's all I need, honestly.
How are you today? It's June 21st. We had a long weekend. It's hot outside, but how you feeling?
Yeah. Speaking of hot outside, I'm currently sitting in a puddle of my own sweat. Because it's been 100+ degrees for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Actually, this weekend on Sunday, not that this is a weather podcast, but on Sunday, I was pleasantly surprised with the temperature. I expected it to I'm not going to say it was cool by any means. It was still in the 90s, but I was expecting to die outside, and I didn't.
You went outside?
I came close. Well, so we had some people over on Sunday for Father's Day. Granted, in my backyard, there's a fair amount of shade, so maybe that's what it was. But I was like, I can't believe we're about to host 12 people with our small ass house. So we're going to have to be outside the whole time, and it ended up being okay to be outside because it wasn't as bad as I expected.
I think I went outside twice on Sunday.
And just immediately
bursts into flames. There is no shade at where I live. So
sure. It could always be better, right?
Sure.
But hey, enough about the weather. This isn't a weather podcast. This is a video games podcast. We got a whole lot of video game stuff to talk about, Cayman, because this is the Spotlight Games podcast, where each and every week we're going to talk to you about the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, or right here on Twitch. You can be notified when we go live, so you can be a part of the show as we record it, or you can email us Spotlight Games, or you can follow us on Twitter at SpotGamesPod, or on Instagram and TikTok at Spotlight Games Pod. And hey, I didn't say it, so if you want to follow us on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod.
Beautiful.
Cayman, as of recording,
yes,
there is a brand new episode of Save Trash Cinema out. I listened to it. It's a great episode. So, don't waste your time telling the people at home how good it is, because it's amazing. Tell them what it's about.
So on this week's Save Trash Cinema, we interviewed Brian Lanano, director of short films such as Gwilliam, Crowhand, The Devil's Asshole, and BFF Girls, amongst many, many other short films. He's a local Atlanta director. Just got premiered on the Arrow video player. So if you know anything about Arrow, you know how prestigious that is. We had him on. We learned some hard truths about everyone's favorite back alley goblin, Gwilliam. And like Patrick said, it's a great episode. Hope you guys enjoy it. It's live right now, so check it out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I would recommend too, before listening to it, if you don't have any sort of boundaries with the content you watch Gwilliam on YouTube. It's 5 or 7 minutes long, because the latter part of the episode, there's a lightning round all about Gwilliam, and it gets raunchy, but it's so entertaining if you've watched Gwilliam. So
yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, I learned a lot of things that I'd never expected to learn. But hey, let's talk about video games. What you been playing, baby?
All right, this actually is a surprise. I booted up The Outer Worlds.
Oh, cool. How are you feeling about it?
I got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
I'll keep it brief though, because we got a jam-packed show. It's scratching an itch. I've been struggling to find a game I want to play by myself.
Sure.
I'm running 2 different co-op games and then 1 online game. And so I was looking for something just for me to just kind of sink my teeth into. And it's doing that for me. It's definitely was scratching an itch. I've put probably about 6-7 hours into it so far. So it's definitely scratching an itch. It's just one of those things where like it, I don't know. It's so much like Fallout and not in a good way.
Yeah.
The character models are awful. Like they're some of the worst. Even, and I know that like I'm playing this on the PlayStation 5, but it's PS4 Pro enhanced. The gameplay, moment to moment gameplay is fun. There is a fuck ton of dialogue.
Yeah,
And
there
that
is.
is very similar to the Fallout games or just any Bethesda game. And Obsidian, kind of rolling off the heels of, making Fallout New Vegas is very similar in the fact that like majority of the time you will just be stuck in dialogue. And while that's fun, it's like, hey, I kind of just want to get back to blowing shit up for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how long I'm going to stick with it. I could see me like completely beating the game. Outside of that, I don't really know. Like, there's no way I'm going to platinum this game.
Yeah.
I've already given up on that. Like, that's just not going to be something for me to do. But ultimately, I'm having fun.
Good.
It really just falls to the trappings of like that, just kind of Bethesda RPG. It just does. Like it's a lot of dialogue. Like I said, lots and lots of dialogue.
Yeah.
The gunplay is spotty at best. The worlds look really cool.
Yeah.
And there's some really funny humor in it that I've really enjoyed. It just doesn't feel as good as I was kind of hoping it would. And that
Yeah.
is what it is.
I played the Outer Worlds a few years ago because it came to Game Pass when it launched. So I played it on an Xbox One, and it ran like absolute dog shit when I played it.
See, not having any of those issues.
I'm sure. If you were, that'd be a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember liking it okay, but like I couldn't tell you a single thing about that game today. Like I have no memory of the plot. I honestly, I mean, I assume it feels like Fallout in terms of the combat. I don't remember the combat like at all. Is there a VATS system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very similar. You can slow down time. You can't like pick body parts or whatnot that you
Okay.
want to shoot, but you can slow down time. So it's got like the slowdown mechanic that's like built in. Honestly, I rarely use it unless
Yeah.
I'm like long range, like trying to snipe headshots or something. I might then, but like, I don't disagree. Like 7 hours in, I'm like, I honestly don't really even know what the plot is at this point. Like I've kind of already lost it. I'm just kind of cruising and grooving. It's scratching the itch of like rolling off the heels of Elden Ring. I just really wanted something that gave me like some deep RPG mechanics.
For sure.
And it's giving me those. But outside of that, like, yeah, I don't know how long I will remember this game if I beat it.
Yeah.
But for what it is worth, like it's running really well. The
Good.
load times though are egregious as fuck.
Even on PS5?
Even on PS5, the load
Yikes.
times, and you have to load into everywhere, and like that sucks.
Yeah, I don't like
but
that.
outside of that, and I'm still playing. Nobody Saves the World. I'm still playing Tiny. We're about to finish Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Hell yeah.
And I'm still jumping in here and there with Evil Dead. That's kind of my go-to relaxation game when I have people to play with. But what
That's
have you
awesome.
been playing?
Cayman, I am upset.
Oh, I love to start off like that.
I have a bone to pick with Aspire Media. I have been playing KOTOR 2 on the Switch. It recently launched on Switch. A couple episodes ago, I talked about how the KOTOR series is one of my favorite series in Star Wars and period. I'm like, you know what? I haven't played KOTOR 2 in at least 10 years, probably more. And now's the time. I didn't want to play KOTOR 1 because of the remake. It's like I don't want to experience that story, and then who knows when that's gonna fucking come out though. And I've been having a great time. Cayman. I started on like Friday. I've already put like 12 hours into this game. I'm like having an awesome time. I'm remembering how much I love some of these characters, how much I hate some of them, but in an entertaining way. I'm having a great time playing this. I'm on my Switch. So, I'm playing it on the TV for a couple hours, and then Rose and I are going to watch some TV together. So I'm going to play it in handheld mode. And then what do I find out today, Cayman? Not only is there a game-breaking bug, but one of the reasons I picked this game up was because they're putting in all the DLC, which I didn't have a chance to play back then because as like a 12-year-old, I didn't know what DLC was. I didn't know that you could get more to your video game. So I'm like, awesome. Can't wait to play the DLC. So I find out not only is there a game-breaking bug that Aspyr has right now, like no timetable to fix, but if I want to play the DLC, I have to start the fucking game over.
I'm sorry. Run that past me one more time.
Not only, Cayman, is there a game-breaking bug, meaning I cannot finish this game if I get to the end, but if I want to play this DLC content, this like 4 to 5 hours of extra content, I have to start the whole goddamn game over. And I found that out today.
Why?
So that was my first question. Why? Why can't I just play this game and then play the additional content? Apparently, the DLC is just expertly woven throughout the narrative. There are little lines here and there, as well as a few missions. And in order to have the true experience, you'd have to start from the beginning. Like, fuck you. No, I don't. Just let me play these extra missions. But hey, I mean, the game, I can't even fucking finish it anyway. So I've just wasted 12 hours of my life, essentially.
You know, Patrick, I just want to
I'm upset.
I want to point something out. This is the first time I've ever seen you get angry on this show. On Safe Try Cinema, pretty much every episode you get pissed off. for probably good reason. But never on Spotlight.
I am upset. I have a bone to pick because I just want to play this game.
Yes.
And now, so I'm going through how I found this out. I'm building the doc. I'm going through. I'm adding all the stories, to which there are many today, folks. And I'm on IGN. I'm scrolling through their shit, and I see they had a story today about this game-breaking bug and how Aspyr's like, oh yeah, we know about it, but we don't know when it's going to be fixed, essentially. And that story linked to another story that they released last week that I missed. That's like, if you plan on playing the DLC, which is launching in the fall, don't play the game until then because you're going to have to start over. And like, if I was younger, if I was still a youth,
sure,
a sprightly youth, I could play this game fucking 4 times.
Sure.
Within the next few months, because what else am I going to do? I'm going to school. I got algebra homework. I'm playing KOTOR again. You know what I mean? I have a life to live. I have a job. I have this fucking podcast. I have your fucking podcast. I don't have time to replay games like this. I don't have time to play KOTOR twice this year, Cayman. Is this a first world problem? You're goddamn right it is. Does that affect my level of anger? It sure fucking doesn't.
Shouldn't.
Not a single iota.
No.
I think Rose just got home within the last few minutes, so I hope she thinks that there's something wrong, because there fucking is. I am mad at this game.
I
am upset.
Shit over. Rightfully so.
But,
would you like to talk about some news? Will that make you feel better?
But to segue into the news, I've also been playing the Quarry, and I've been having a delightful time. So I'm going to talk about that later when we talk about the Quarry reviews. But I'm upset, Cayman, and I might be starting a petition. Who knows? We'll see. But let's talk about some news.
Oh boy.
Let's talk about something that some might classify as various levels of confusing and exciting. Final Fantasy VII. On the day of our recording release last week, so on Thursday of last week, they had a 25th anniversary announcement video. It was like 30 or 40 minutes long. They announced a whole bunch of shit. So we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about it, Cayman, because that's what we do at this podcast. So I am pulling from Ty Galazrow at Gaming Mag, spelled with a Y, because that is the home of queer geek culture. Want to spotlight their website, their outlet this month and every month moving forward. On Thursday, Square Enix posted a video celebrating the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII with several announcements about the game and its remake. The first announcement was that Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade will be available on Steam and Steam Deck on June 17th. For then initiated, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade was basically like the director's cut. They had like some more content in it. So it's just the full package is available on Steam and Steam Deck now. They went on to also announce that the mobile games in this franchise also had some news for fans. Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier, is kicking off its third season with a new map, new weapon, new materia, and a new style. No idea what that means. The video also announced a new mobile game coming to iOS and Android, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. This game appears to be, at least in part, a remake of Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. It's getting a closed beta test sometime this year. We also got a trailer for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. This game focuses on Cloud's predecessor, Zack, and his mentor, Angeal. Quick aside, I find it funny. The game called Final Fantasy VII has a character called Zack. Just a fucking normal ass name in a game called Final Fantasy, but that's beside the point. The two of them, along with Sephiroth, see, that's a Final Fantasy name, Sephiroth.
Yeah,
not Zack. So. Sephiroth are investigating the disappearance of one of their fellow soldiers, Genesis. The game will be available this winter on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Steam. The final announcement, perhaps the biggest announcement of the show, was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which will be available exclusively on PS5 next winter. This video confirmed that the game is the next part of the series started by Final Fantasy VII Remake, which will conclude with one more title after this one. According to a tweet from Final Fantasy VII Twitter account, Rebirth will take Cloud and his friends on a new adventure, so players should be able to hop on board with this entry regardless of their familiarity with previous games. I don't buy that, but that's just marketing for buy our game. So to recap, Final Fantasy VII Remake out now on Steam and Steam Deck. A new mobile game and an expansion to a new mobile or current mobile game, one that I had no idea existed. Crisis Core, which is a PSP game, getting a full remake a la Final Fantasy VII Remake this winter, which I assume means early 2023. And parts 2 and 3 for Final Fantasy VII Remake were announced, with part 2 coming next winter and part 3 with no sort of release window. So for part 2, I assume Q1 2024 at the earliest, but I'm sure both of these are probably getting pushed back. But Cayman, it's a lot of news, a lot of Final Fantasy stuff. We got Zack, we got Sephiroth. Cayman, what do you think? Where are you at on this news? Does this do anything for you?
Do you remember, Patrick, when Peter Jackson, the
King Kong's Peter Jackson,
the New Zealand baby boy, or beefy boy, he's a beefy boy. Do you remember when he was like, "Hey, we're making the Hobbit movies, and it's gonna be 3 parts," and people were like, "Oh, that's exciting."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is kind of how I feel about that.
Sure.
Where I'm like, I mean, I was going to say it's cool, but also like, I don't give a flying fuck about half of this shit outside of just regular Final Fantasy. Like, there's a world in which there's a lot of people really excited about this and like, cool, but also why?
Yeah.
Patrick, why?
Here's my thing. So I've said multiple times throughout the course of this show that I've started Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I've never gotten more than like a few hours in. So this also doesn't do a lot for me. I am going to give Final Fantasy VII Remake another shot because I want to be a part of the conversation. I want to see what all the hubbub is about.
Sure.
But I think for the Skylers of the world, for the Final Fantasy VIIs of the world, Final Fantasy VII fans of the world, I skipped a very important word in that phrase. I think this is exciting. And I think because Final Fantasy VII has a huge fan base. Sure. And like if I take what happened for Final Fantasy VII right now and put it to something that I really love, like The Last of Us, if they were to come out and be like, hey, here's like fucking 9 different games we're making, I'd be thrilled. I'm sure I'd be skeptical on certain ones, depending on, what they are. But I feel like there's a huge audience here. I just don't think that audience necessarily is you or me.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. Like, I know that Final Fantasy VII has a decently sized audience, but at the same time, you're starting to push a little too far into just the overload. Like, okay, for instance, for me right now, like, I still haven't gone to see Doctor Strange. And I still haven't watched Moon Knight. And Moon Knight's like one of my favorite comic book characters.
Spoil them both for you right now.
And I feel free. But the thing is like the reason I haven't done that is because I'm just tired of it. Same with Star Wars. Like there's just so much content for like this world, this universe that I'm just like, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Slow down. You are overloading me with shit. Every time I turn around, there's some new content that I have to consume. By the time the final portion of Final Fantasy VII finally hit shelves, and then they end up releasing, presumably a year later, the Deluxo Integrado version
In Spanish markets.
2875 dash Final Fantasy X 2.
Yep.
Like, when we get to that point, like the amount of just Final Fantasy VII, like I'm sorry, but like there's gonna be diehard fans that are like, enough.
Sure.
Please, enough. Like, I can't keep consuming just Final Fantasy VII the rest of my life. And we're currently on track to do so.
Yeah, I feel like we will be getting Final Fantasy VII games for the next 90 years.
Yeah, at least the next 10 years will be nothing but Final Fantasy coming. Which I mean, look at Square Enix lately. Like, this might actually be the best option for them. Because
for sure,
God knows they've been putting out some dog shit lately.
Yeah.
So,
and I will say, like, the actual announcement video was really well done. Like, the way the pacing of it was really nice. There's this really weird section in the middle. I cut it out of what's their name, Ty's article. They announced like a clock in the shape of like his Buster Sword, like those kinds of things. So like there was a little bit of a lull there in the middle, but they did the thing that I think these kinds of conferences need to do, which is like the stuff that isn't hype, we're going to talk about for 30 seconds tops. We just want you to know it's there. So like that was, I appreciated that. It was honestly, of the last several conferences that have happened, or these announcements, these videos that these publishers are dropping, it was probably one of the best ones, even though these games don't do much for me.
Now, we've just prattled on for a bit about content that you will be consuming the next 10 years.
Yes.
Patrick, what do you think about us talking about content that you probably won't consume until 30 years from now?
I think that is a great idea. Tell me all about it, Cayman.
Perfect. Fallout 5 is coming after Elder Scrolls 6. And this comes from Joe Screbbles over at IGN. This is from his article. He says, Todd Howard has confirmed to IGN that Fallout 5 will be Bethesda Game Studios' next game after the Elder Scrolls 6, which itself will follow on from 2023's Starfield. Speaking to IGN about Starfield's gameplay reveal at the Xbox Bethesda showcase, Howard briefly delved into what's next for his studio once the new IP is out the door. Quote, yes, Elder Scrolls 6 is in pre-production, and, we're going to be doing Fallout 5 after that, so our slate's pretty full going forward for a while. We have some other projects that we look at from time to time as well. Howard has told IGN previously that the studio has an idea for Fallout 5 in place, saying, quote, Fallout's really part of our DNA here. We've worked with other developers from time to time. I can't say what's going to happen. We have one pager on Fallout 5, what we want to do, end quote. However, Howard hadn't confirmed that confirmed that it would definitely be on the way after Elder Scrolls 6. Of course, at Bethesda's current pace of production, it will still likely be many years before we see Fallout 5 actually is. In today's interview, Howard confirmed that work started on Starfield in late 2015, meaning it will be over 7 years from start to finish when that game arrives. The last mainline Elder Scrolls game, Skyrim, arrived in 2011, and with the sequel still in pre-production, we likely have years to go before we see that one too. We learned previously that Elder Scrolls 6 was pushed back because the team wanted to make Starfield first. Howard acknowledged the long waits for his fan-favorite games, implying he's as frustrated as those wanting to play them. Quote, they do take a while. I wish they came out faster. I really do. We're trying as hard as we can, but we want them to be as best as they can be for everyone, end quote. And to you, Todd Howard, what I must say is, every game you've ever released has been broken as shit. So, do you really want them to be the best they can be for everybody? Because I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Also, these games will never come out. No, I take that back. They will. Todd Howard will be dead by the time these games
possible,
come out.
man. I thought it was so funny that just all of this. It's like, sure, I understand that, like, him saying that Fallout is coming after Elder Scrolls really saves a lot of discourse, a lot of what's gonna come next conversations.
Mm.
But now those podcasts, those videos are being substituted with when the fuck is it coming?
Yeah.
Because Starfield 2023. And so also quick little point. We had very briefly talked about this last episode. We said we were going to dive in a little deeper this episode. So that's what we're doing. But it's like Elder Scrolls, there's no way that comes at least till what, 2026, 7? So then that may like
no. I would say Elder Scrolls 6 probably won't be here until the absolute earliest 2028.
And like I would be willing to bet that neither of these games will take as long to develop as Starfield, because they're all of that they're building like in a way from the ground up, like a lot of new systems, things like the space combat, and I don't see those kinds of other gameplay types happening in, at least in Elder Scrolls, maybe in Fallout. But there's only so much you can do in Elder Scrolls because it's a fantasy setting, right? Like maybe, well, they've already done riding dragons, but like, so like they've done flight in some capacity in Elder Scrolls. But like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's not a bunch of other like crazy different stuff they could do for Elder Scrolls that
Sure.
yeah.
No, I don't disagree with you that they're like building Starfield is a lot different than building Skyrim 2.0. But at the same time, as cool as it sounds to get a Skyrim 2.0, that is going to piss off a lot of people.
Sure.
Look, it'll be presumably they'll be using the Starfield engine or whatever engine that is, maybe. It depends on what that engine's designed off of.
Yeah.
I can't see a world in which this releases before 2028. I see it potentially getting a release date for 2027, but not hitting that. And then also just kind of depending on how well Starfield performs, God knows what's going to happen to Bethesda.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess the kind of way that I'm looking at it is like, what's going to be the big thing there? Because you are going to have to design a game still. You know, it's not like you're just going to make DLC for Skyrim again, or you're just going to port Skyrim over again. Like it's going to be built presumably from the ground up.
Right.
Yeah, I really don't see it. And then by the time that they get started on Fallout 5, trajectory wise, we're probably looking at whatever the new next gen console is at that point.
Oh yeah.
I could see this launching as like Fallout 5 being the game that launches on next gen consoles, if not a couple years after that. So like that even more so is like, you're going to have to be building this game for a completely new system.
Yeah.
And so, there's the other part too, where it's like, there's a potential chance that whatever this Elder Scrolls game is going to be called is going to be coming out on next gen consoles too.
Oh, definitely.
So like, there's so many different moving parts there that like I don't see us getting it for a very long time.
Very long time.
I mean, Todd Howard's going to be like in his 60s. I mean, he's got to be in his 50s now.
Oh, yeah.
Easily in his 50s.
Yeah.
So like he's going to be like in his 60s, pushing mid 60s probably by the time.
Still wearing that leather coat.
That leather coat. Do you think he just got like multiples of that coat?
Oh, yeah.
Or like
for sure.
Have you ever okay, hold on. I know we'll never get sponsored by Bethesda or Xbox after I say this, but like,
oh no.
Todd Howard has one of those faces that just sucks.
Oh, so sweet Todd.
Just Todd's face, man. Just
sweet
sucks.
Todd.
It just sucks, Patrick.
Hey, we can agree to disagree. I think he has just a fine face. Here's my last thought on the topic.
Okay.
And then we can move on. Unless Starfield is a fucking bust, which I don't think it will be, I expect Bethesda to like triple in size. And Microsoft just pumps money in there so that they can expand enough so that they can be working on, because they announced Elder Scrolls in 2018. So it's already been 4 years. We're going on 5 years since it was announced, and there's nothing. Like they basically, it sounds like what happened was they're working on Starfield, they're working on Elder Scrolls. And then if you didn't read it, I might have cut it out. He was like, the studio wanted to do Starfield. So they pivoted and like pushed pause on Elder Scrolls to put all of their resources towards Starfield. So, and then the other thing too, well, if Starfield's really good, aren't they going to want to do Starfield 2 or like whatever that is? So it's like I feel like with how big Elder Scrolls is, with how big Fallout is, if Starfield even gets close to the height of those two games, people are going to want more of that too. So it's like, I feel like the only solution for them to be able to do all of this is to just expand and become bigger, which isn't necessarily a good thing. But
so that you actually bring up a very valid point, is that if Starfield is massively successful, first and foremost, Starfield, actually, you know what? I say that, I don't know. I was going to say Starfield is going to sell gangbusters, but it's not. It's just going to be on Game Pass.
Sure.
So, however, they use metrics for that. And that's also part of for me, that's like Game Pass is like a thing, just seems like you're just continuing to throw more and more money at something in hopes that like with the situation where like now Sony, which we'll talk about in a little bit, has their own version. I wouldn't be shocked if Valve comes out with their own version too in the next year or two. If I'm shocked we haven't heard something about that yet. So obviously diminishing returns will take place. Look at Netflix, for instance. Diminishing returns will take place.
Yeah.
It's like you got to be assuming that you're going to start losing money eventually, if you're not already losing money. So like, I don't know. Like Bethesda's in a very tricky position because on one hand, you're right. If it is massively successful by whatever metrics they're using, there's a chance that they could expand exponentially. But then you're probably also going to see that Starfield 2 will be pushed further up. So Fallout 5 will probably be pushed back, or a completely different team like Obsidian will end up taking on and making Fallout 5 because, you know, Microsoft owns the rights to the franchise now. And God knows with whatever the Elder Scrolls game is, like, who knows what's going to happen? Or the game comes out to be a massive bug-filled mess and is scorned forever, No Man's Sky style.
Sure.
And then what happens? Like, do they put a pause on everything, or do they put a pause on any DLC that could come to Starfield and are like, fuck this shit, you're moving on? Like, now you have overlords, which they didn't have before. And we're talking big business now. And that's, if you're Todd Howard, I'm squirming in my seat. Unless you know for a fact that this game is going to be essentially the game that will set the bar for every Western RPG going forward.
I think that's what they think. And with to your point, now that they have overlords by the name of Phil Spencer, they're also seeing progress of development. They're seeing how it's doing. So I would love to hear like what they think about it right now. Like if they think that this is the next big thing as well, they probably do. But
or they'll tell you they do.
Right. It'll be really interesting to see how all of this plays out over the next fucking several years. But why don't we pivot to something that we can actually see how it's played out today? Something that's been rumored for a long time, announced now, out now. This is something we've been talking about a lot on the podcast over the last several episodes, and that is the new overhauled PlayStation Plus. So why don't we give some PlayStation Plus premium thoughts from these thoughts? That's the name of the segment.
I love it.
So, Cayman, you have PlayStation Plus Premium, Extra, Basic.
I have Premium.
Premium. So do I.
Of course I have Premium.
Money bags over here. This will be a short one, I think, because neither of us have spent a lot of time with this, but it's out. We would have talked about it last week if we didn't have a million things to talk about. What have we played? How is it performing? What are our thoughts overall? Cayman, I turned to you. How has PlayStation Plus Premium been treating you so far?
So I actually haven't played anything yet.
Oh, okay. You just browsed.
I've browsed, I've perused. First, I can tell you, Bulletstorm is on it. Therefore, it's immediately worth getting part of. You need to be part of the subscription so you can play Bulletstorm all the time. The other thing is for me is, holy fucking shit, this catalog is massive.
A lot of games.
And full of stuff that I'm shocked is there. Like, there are games there that I was like, there's no fucking way that Sony pulled the plug. Like, Sony is notoriously stingy. They just are.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of rat bastards, guys. And we'll never get sponsored by Sony either. But no,
Thanks,
like,
Cam. You're really fucking killing our future
I'm
here.
just fucking losing it. But no, man, the catalog is huge. And it's not just like full of old games. Like, it's full of a bunch of new games too that I'm shocked are there. And then there's just like some really weird shit in there and a lot of really good indie games that like I've always put on the back burner because it's like, I'm not really enough in the mood. I don't know if I want to pull the trigger and spend $20 on this. Like, they're there, like Outer Wilds. Like, I almost didn't play Outer Worlds. I almost just played Outer Wilds instead.
Yeah.
And I'm like stuff like that, like I didn't expect. Like, I had Sydney, she like tossed her my phone the other day. I was like, hey, just like look through if there's anything you want, like we'll just go ahead and download it. And she's like, there is so much here I want to play. And like, awesome. That is the important thing, is like, is there things there? Now for me right now, it's kind of like, because I've playing so many games currently and like just doing this rotation of what I'm playing, it's a little bit harder. But like, there's so much there that like someone like Sydney, who's like, and I think that's kind of what is going to end up attracting is people who are like, either don't play a ton, but are like, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to start playing some other stuff. There's a lot of nostalgia hits there.
Yeah.
Like, the PlayStation catalog is like just stupidly good. And they've got a lot of stuff on there. And with the continuous like drops of being like, hey, every month, that catalog is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger is terrifying, honestly. And I mean, sure, it doesn't have a lot of the like day one stuff that Game Pass has, and Game Pass definitely has the edge because of that. But I think what Sony has that Xbox doesn't in this particular situation is they have history. And the amount of games in there that are just like, yeah, we never thought we would actually get the ability to play these again with trophies.
Yeah.
Jesus. So, I mean, I can't wait. My biggest thing that I'm excited to try out is the cloud play.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see how well that stacks up. I know that Xbox has their cloud play works really well. So I'm curious how Sony's is going to shake out. But I think honestly, like, bang for your buck, like, it's totally worth it. Like, it's just a little bit more a month, honestly, if just to have premium. And the game trials, like, there's not a ton of game trials. That's something I'm looking forward to seeing that list of games grow, is the game trials. Now, I will say, Patrick, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, you can do a game trial of it right now.
Yeah, I plan on it.
So, stuff like that, I think, is like going to be another big selling point. Because like, if you start tossing out a bunch of stuff, like if you put out the Quarry on Game Pass, like, I don't know right now, like I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it, but yeah, I don't know if it's something that I want to jump into immediately, but like, if I could do a game trial of that, and be like, oh shit, never mind, no, I'm hooked, I want to see how this ends, then yes, I'm dumping the money to do it. So initial thoughts for me, without actually using the cloud, obviously you can download everything straight to your console. We know how well that works already. It works. And the catalog is massive. So outside of just trying the cloud version, I think this is a slam dunk for Sony. Like, right out of the park. Like, you guys, you did it. I'm proud of you.
Hell yeah.
I was very nervous.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I mostly echo what you say. I think I played a few games. I think it's a great catalog so far. I've actually mostly played the classics. I dabbled a little bit with like the original Resident Evil, the PlayStation version, like PS1, like not the remake of Resident Evil. I dabbled with Siphon Filter for like 5 minutes. I dabbled with like a Red Faction game for like 5 minutes. And so that's the thing that I've been having so far. And this isn't something that I hold against the platform by any means, but there is something to be said about the attractiveness of nostalgia and a nostalgic experience, and like thinking like, oh, I would love to go back to that, and then actually doing it.
Yeah.
So like I was like, oh, I've never played Siphon Filter. I'd love to try that out. And it has trophies. It's like, I'm being dramatic, but it's like kind of unplayable, and not because of the
Sure.
service, because it's a PlayStation 1 game, and like
Yeah.
it's the controls are so bad. I had the exact same experience with Resident Evil 1. I was like, whoa, I've played
Tank
the
controls,
remake.
bro.
I've played like I've played it on Switch. I've played it on GameCube. Like I've played that game so many times. The remake of it, I'd love to play the original, and I can't. Like I tried, and I was like, this. I'm sure
Yeah.
if I gave it more time, I could. But I was like, wow, I'm surprised at how.
There are people who love tank controls.
For sure. And so there
And
is an audience out
mm,
there for
I
sure.
do think that the one that's going to be like where this is really going to thrive is when they start dumping more and more of like the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 JRPGs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because those are just kind of naturally built into doing kind of that already. So like
Yeah.
those translate a lot better now. I think those will be, but then again, once again, JRPGs, it's a limited audience. You're not going to pull in someone who's like a Call of Duty guy and be like, hey, I know you really like Call of Duties and FPS games. Try out Wild Arms 2 or
Yeah.
Wild Arms 3.
Right.
Like, that's just, I don't think, going to work. So, like, it is. But then you can also throw in, like, hey, we know for a fact we're going to be getting Resistance down the line. And those games presumably will still play well enough. I mean,
Yeah.
they're PlayStation 3 games. Like, or,
For sure.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think like to your point about like Sydney looking through and like there are so many games there that for anyone in our audience that like if you haven't played a ton of games on PlayStation or you're like newer to games or like you played as a kid and now like you're back again, like there will be so much here. Like there's so much good shit here that if you have a
Yeah.
PlayStation that I do think it is definitely worth
And a lot of
your time.
PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 games that still
Yeah.
play really well. I mean, fuck, you can get Ghost of Tsushima director's cut right now.
Yeah.
Cloud, stream, hit.
That's the really cool thing is and like that it's another thing that I'm annoyed with, but this is a me problem is I bought director's cut when it came out. It's like, man, I didn't
Joke's on you.
I know I didn't need to buy that
Um,
or like
I didn't.
or I bought Outer Wilds. I didn't need to buy that. Like
Yeah,
so
yeah,
those kinds of things, but that's a me problem. But yeah, like Death Stranding director's cut. When that came out, I was like, I would like to play this extra content, but I'm not going to go spend $60 on it, $70 on it.
sure.
But now I don't have to because it's on the PlayStation
Yeah.
Plus thing. So
I
yeah,
got
definitely.
almost played Demon Souls.
Oh yeah,
And it was like, you know what? I can't mentally handle that.
yeah.
But that's okay because you know what I can mentally handle? You telling me all about the Quarry. But before we hear what you say, let's hear what Richard Wakeling over at GameSpot said. He gave it a 9 out of 10. He said Supermassive doesn't shy away from the fact that The Quarry is essentially an interactive movie. The mechanics haven't evolved since Until Dawn was released 7 years ago, and that's perfectly fine. The basic system of choice and consequence is still highly effective at building suspense and lending a massive amount of weight to each decision you make. Its characters are personable, well written, and superbly performed, ensuring that you care about what happens to them. And the story takes plenty of exciting twists and turns that make you eager to find out what's going to happen next. You may only make a contribution every few minutes, but that doesn't stop The Quarry from being a fantastic horror game and Supermassive's best venture to date. Patrick, I'm going to take the reins for a second. Let me interview you. I'm kind of feeling like I'm in an interview mood after
I love it.
STC.
Oh yeah.
Patrick, tell me, as someone who was a big fan of Until Dawn,
Yeah.
do you think that the positives, the fact that he literally just said their best venture to date, do you think it's true?
I unequivocally agree.
Whoa! Woo!
I adored this game. I played the whole thing with Rose. I started it before we recorded last week. I played like 1 or 2 chapters on my own, and then but like Rose and I talked about playing it together, and like we don't play a lot of video games together. Like how you and Sid are playing like Tiny Tina's, and like we don't play that kind of stuff together. This is really the only kind of stuff we play together.
Get good, Rose.
Yeah. She's getting there. But so I was like, we had this long weekend. I was like, why don't we I think this was on like Friday night or Thursday night, I forget which. Let's start this up. And we played the first like 3 chapters together, and we kind of couldn't put it down. Like we finished it last night. And I had such a great time playing that game. I think right now, depending on, if God of War comes out and hits the mark, I think right now it is between this and Horizon as my game of the year so far. And I
Oh,
honestly could see this being my game of the year. Now, there's a really big caveat here in
okay.
that I played this game couch co-op with my wife.
Mhm.
I can't speak to the experience of playing it alone. And
Okay.
so there is a world in which maybe this isn't as fun to do alone. Like that last one of those last sentences in Richard's review, you may only make a contribution every few minutes, but that doesn't stop the Quarry from being a fantastic core game and Supermassive's best venture to date. So like when Rose and I were playing, it has a really cool mode called couch co-op mode where it's essentially like a fantasy draft. You pick your players at the beginning of the game. There's 8 playable characters. So each of us got to play as 4 of them. So like when it was like the prologue character Laura, I played as, and then like the first character that you play as once the real story starts in chapter 1 is Jacob. Rose picked Jacob. So then like I got to hand the controller to her, and throughout the game we would be do we want to be honest here? Do we want to conceal the truth? Like we would talk about in times that we could, take as much time as we wanted to make a decision, we would talk to each other and figure out like, kind of talk through what we think each path would take. And then for ones where it's like you only have 5 seconds to make a choice, whoever was in control, we just basically got to make the choice. Or we'd like, what do you think we should do? So it just, I don't know. It was just a really, really fun time. But outside of the actual experience, I think like graphically, it is a huge step up from Until Dawn. Not to say that Until Dawn looks bad by any means, but like it makes sense. This is a PS5 game. That was a PS4 game. That was at the beginning of the PS4 cycle. We're at the beginning of the PS5, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But it's
Sure.
so pretty. There are times when it's a little wonky and it's, when you're walking around and not in the cutscenes, it still feels a little janky. Like it still kind of feels like a Telltale game in 3D where like the walking around isn't, it could be better, but it's not what it's about. It's about the story, it's about the characters, it's about the writing, and it's about the different story outcomes. So that's the other thing. With Until Dawn, I feel like when I was talking with Rose about it last night once we had beaten it, and I was listening to like a spoiler cast and reading about like all the different endings, I feel like when compared to the Quarry, Until Dawn almost feels like a proof of concept. And
Hmm.
this feels more like I think what they wanted to achieve with Until Dawn. And what I mean by that is with Until Dawn, I don't want to make it sound like Until Dawn your choices don't matter, because they do. But I feel like with Until Dawn there was a lot more like the illusion that your choice mattered.
Sure.
Whereas I felt like a lot of the paths kind of led to the same thing.
Converge. Yeah.
And with this, it does have that in certain aspects, but like listening to like I was listening to a spoiler cast on it and hearing certain parts of the story that they had, I was like, I didn't even like nothing came close to that for me. So like it really feels like I started up another playthrough alone a little bit before recording tonight, and so I want to kind of see like what another run through does for me. But it really seems like there is a lot of difference with what can happen in the story, which is like I think will be fun for having conversation with your friends. Like if other people, it's like I really hope that you and Sydney play it soon so that I can hear like how your story goes, because there are it's similar to Until Dawn. All your characters can die, all of them can live, or anything in between. And if someone dies, like you'll just miss out on the rest of their story. And so I don't know. There's just I could kind of ramble for a while about the game, but overall, really, really pleased with it. I had a great time. Highly recommend it if this is a kind of game that you like. And the actors that they got this time too. I something I didn't mention that Richard did is the performances are great. There's a lot of names you'll recognize. There's a lot you won't, but I felt like they really nailed the horror tropey, like there's the nerdy character, there's the jockey character, like, and not in a bad way. Like sometimes those kind of tropes can feel tiresome, but I
Sure.
really liked the way that they did it here. And so yeah, highly recommend. Big fan of the Quarry.
Beautiful. I love to hear it. Well, let's move on to something that else you have been playing, and that
Sure.
is Mario Strikers.
So yeah, this is I didn't mention at the top of the show, but this is a game that I've been playing as well. I played a little bit more of. So we have 2 reviews here because they're pretty short. Each of them are pretty short. Currently 75% on Open Critic, so not great. But I mean, still positive. It's higher, or it's almost as high as the Quarry's. The Quarry's only at a 79%. But this first one comes from Nintendo Life, which is an owl that we don't feature a lot on our show. This is Alex Olney. Gave it a 9 out of 10. Alex says Mario Strikers Battle League is a masterclass in competitive game design. What it lacks in options is more than made up by just how much fun the game is, and it's absolutely gorgeous to boot. As it stands, it already feels like a complete product, but the promise of future updates down the line gives us more and more to get excited about. If arcade sport action isn't your bag, it'll likely do nothing to sway your opinion. But if you have even a passing interest in this kind of caper, Mario Strikers Battle League is the best sports game on Switch right now. And then pulling from GameSpot's Steve Watts, he was a little less high on it. He gave it a 7 out of 10 and said Mario Strikers Battle League is a thin package without very much variety in terms of game modes and options, but it is a more technically complex game than many of the Mario Sports titles, which may give it legs for dedicated players. Sports are all about providing your skill in head-to-head matchups, and that will have to be enough because there isn't much else to it. And as I mentioned last week, I'm more in line with Steve's review. I think it's fun. I think it's a really well-made game. I just think that there's still some stuff missing. Since we last talked, I was able to complete the Challenger Cup mode, which is like the hard mode. And I will say last week I was like, this game is way too easy. Challenger Cup kicked my ass. It goes from like a 0 in difficulty to a 10 in difficulty from the first mode to the second mode. Like there were times when I was like, I'm about to throw my controller. This is so hard. But yeah, still, I don't know when I'm going to go back unless like you guys come over and we all play together. Sure. Do these reviews do anything for you? Like, do you think you might pick up Battle League?
No, they definitely seem to put me more on pause to be like, I'll relax on this for a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what a game I don't want to relax on?
Tell me.
TMNT's Shredder's Revenge.
Hell yeah.
Currently has an 87 on OpenCritic. Now, this comes from another one from Nintendo Life. This is Tom Massey, who gave it a 9 out of 10. He said, 2 years in the making, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is the best Turtles beat-em-up ever made, and a faster, better-looking, and more entertaining affair than even Streets of Rage 4. It looks delicious, sounds superb, and rekindles childhood memories beyond all expectation, time warping you back to 1987. Its combat system is so much fun to mine that you feel compelled to keep coming back to try new strategies, and with its awesome multiplayer, the experience evolves again and again. Like any beat 'em up, it does get repetitive as you enter the last third, but that's more a fault of the concept than it is of the game. I'm really excited. This is one that like every time anything pops up about it, Sydney's like, so when are you going to get that? When are you going to play that? Yeah. This looks like the perfect game for you. And I'm like, it is. I just have so much on my plate to finish right now. Like I just don't have the time to dive into this. It just looks so goddamn good.
It does.
And so nostalgic. Like,
yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles and what was it?
Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time. One of my favorite games of all time.
Oh yeah.
Like my brother and I played that game so much on the Super Nintendo. So much. Like I could repeat the exact beats from the Manhattan level. Like just digit by digit.
Oh yeah.
Like that game means so much to me. It was like one of the first real experiences where it was like, this is probably going to end up being one of your hobbies for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that was the reason. So like me having to sit there being like, don't do it, Cayman. Don't do it, Cayman. You have a wedding to pay for, Cayman. Don't do it, Cayman. You got 7 fucking games that you're currently playing that you need to finish. Don't do it. And I'm still sitting there like, okay, but what if I just don't listen to the good angel on my shoulder and just flick it off and then just listen only to the devil that's like, you want Ninja Turtles.
You do.
Which I do.
I am that devil, and I'm here to tell you, you want Ninja Turtles.
Oh, I do. God, I really do.
Well, are you guys going to get it on PlayStation when you do get it, or Switch?
I'm thinking PlayStation. It's just, I guess my thing is like, if I can get it on the PlayStation, I'm going to play it on the PlayStation. I know it's currently free on Game Pass, so there is an option of potentially doing that. But at the same time, it's also like, I don't know. I like the feel of my DualSense.
Yeah.
Like just much more than I like the feel of Joy-Cons or the Xbox controller. there's just something about it that I just like that feel so much better.
Sure.
And so definitely that's where I'm going to play it. The question is when, and will it be immediately after we finish recording? Because there's a very good chance right now I'm currently purchasing the game.
Good. I downloaded it on Game Pass. I just haven't played it yet, but I will likely buy it on PlayStation so that we can play together, because this feels like a game, like from the reviews I've watched, and like I hear it's really, really good. I mean, the Metacritic, OpenCritic is really high, but I feel like this could be one of those games where you really need someone to play with for it to really sing. Yeah. I'm sure it's still really fun on your own, but like it's kind of the whole point of these games is what I'm Donatello, you're Michelangelo or whatever. And so yeah, we'll see.
I am always Donatello.
Sad. That's a problem. Purple's my favorite color.
Shit, son. I'm curious. There's 6 characters you can play as.
Oh yeah, you can play as April.
You can play as April. You can play as all 4 of the turtles and Splinter. No Casey Jones though.
So I saw a video of, I think maybe he's an unlockable character when you beat it or something, because I'm pretty sure when they showed it at the Xbox conference, I'm pretty sure they showed Casey gameplay. But maybe up front, maybe you can't play as Casey Jones.
Well, fun fact for the audience and for you, Patrick, it's currently 10% off if you got PlayStation Plus. So
what's the MSRP? 25? 20?
$24.99.
Okay.
And it's currently downloading online.
Hell yeah.
So guess what? I guess I got something else I have to play now.
Fantastic. We need to play it before next week and we can both talk about it.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely that'll happen.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this game, and I'm glad the reviews are as good as they are. We have 2 more things to talk about, came in, and we're right at an hour. So one of them gonna be quick. This one, I think, probably also quick. And so this one, I want to actually pivot a little bit. So the story here is that tomorrow there is going to be a Nintendo Direct all about Xenoblade Chronicles. But the thing is, Cayman, the vast majority of people that are going to be listening to this are listening to it in the future. So us talking about there being a new Direct tomorrow, when by the time they listen to it is yesterday, not a very interesting conversation. So I will just quickly say, for anyone watching on Twitch, tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, there is a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 focused Direct. My question to you, Cayman, is last week into the show, we talked about there being a leak from one Alana Pierce of PlayStation that on the 29th of June, there was going to be a big Direct. This is the 22nd of June, and it's not a big Direct. It's a Direct focused on one game. Typically, Directs are single game focused or big, where they talk about a bunch of shit. So my question to you is, do we think we will be getting another Direct this month? Or do we think the leak was a little wrong and we're going to be getting another Direct, in the next few months or weeks or whatever? Like, what do you think is the future here? Because Jeffy Grubb had tweeted when this was announced on the 20th, yesterday, as of recording, that he said, quote, this fits with what I heard about Nintendo doing their summer showcases in bits and pieces. I still expect more news later this month. So I don't know. I'm kind of confused. Like, do we think there's going to be a bunch of mini Directs? Do we think there's going to be, like, this is just the one-off and then they're going to do a big one? Like, where is your head at on Nintendo right now?
This is a tough one because we still haven't seen anything about Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah.
And now would be a perfect time to show it. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 launches July 29th. Do they overload us with more information leading up before the launch of that? Potentially. It is Nintendo. They're known to do whatever the fuck they want whenever they want to do it.
Correct.
Yeah, I definitely think, if not June 29th, I definitely think before the launch of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, we will at least get one more Direct. And I wouldn't be shocked if that Direct is several games, if not more than that, and be closer to 45 minutes long. And they just start dumping shit, being like, here's things to get excited for that are coming in the fall from Nintendo. This is the time that you would do it, because you need to have that time of anticipation. So I definitely, it very well could be June 29th. But also, I wouldn't be shocked if it's anytime up until like July 15th.
I wonder if last year, if memory serves, there was a direct in February. There was a big direct in February, and they were like, join us next month. Or no, this must have been 2 years ago. Join us next month, and we're going to tell you a lot more about Animal Crossing New Horizons. I wonder if at the end of this direct, they're like, join us next Friday or next Wednesday for 30 minutes of big announcements for the rest of this year. Like one of those kinds of things, I wonder.
Yeah. I mean, it very well could be. I still like, there's that gut feeling, where it's like, this can't be the only thing we get out of Nintendo this summer.
Right? It
Because
can't
we
be.
haven't had like a really big slate of announcements since probably the last direct, which was a few months ago.
February.
February, yeah. So yeah, I definitely think it's time because they need to start setting up for whatever they have coming in fall. Like this is just the time historically to do it. So I definitely think like it's shit or get off the pot, Nintendo.
Right.
But they are very close to the chest. Like, I mean, Sony did the same thing with the previous State of Play, where it was like, hey, next Wednesday we're gonna have a State of Play, and that was like on Friday. So like,
yeah.
So I wouldn't be shocked if we don't know about it until literally after the direct, like a few days after the direct. Like, we got another one. So I wouldn't be shocked by that, or like 3 days before, just being like, "Here's the direct," because when Nintendo speaks out, everyone listens.
Yeah, good point.
So, it would be something different if Devolver were to be like, hey, we're doing a mini thing. People would be like, cool. I'll check it on YouTube like 3 days later. Like Nintendo, Xbox, or Sony, when they say, hey, we're doing a showcase or we're doing a direct or a state of play, people pause. They schedule their calendars just like we do.
Yeah.
And they tune in. So, yes, I do think we will get one we will get one. Just mark my words, by August 1st. There will be a very large Nintendo Direct.
I agree. There has to be. Because each year, if memory serves, they do one like February, June, and then like September, October-ish. Like usually they do like 3 big ones a year. And we've only gotten one so far. And these one-off ones like the Xenoblade one tomorrow, that doesn't count. So I hope that we're right here and that it comes soon because I want more news, Cayman. I want to know where Odyssey 2 is, Cayman. Huh. How about that?
Huh.
What do we think? Do we want to talk about Tony Hawk?
Fuck it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'll make it quick. I'm disappointed. Yeah. This comes from Andy Robinson at VGC. A planned remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 was canned due to Activision Blizzard's decision to absorb the developer Vicarious Visions, who handled the remake of 1-2. That's according to the Pro Skater himself, the Birdman, who claimed during a live stream on Monday that Activision had briefly taken pitches from other studios, but allegedly wasn't happy with any of them. Quote, that was the plan, even up until the release date of 1 and 2, Hawk said. We were doing 3 and 4, and then Vicarious got kind of absorbed, and then they were looking for other developers, and then it was over. He added, quote, the truth of it is Activision were trying to find somebody to do 3 and 4, but they just didn't really trust anyone the way they did Vicarious. So they took other pitches from other studios, like, what would you do with this THPS title? And they didn't like anything they heard, and then that was it. Then he finishes by saying, who knows? Maybe when the dust settles, we'll figure it out. You never know. I never would have thought we were going to do 1 and 2 20 years later, which respect. Also, Activision, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Honestly, 4 wasn't big on 4, but 3.
Yeah.
I probably put more time into 3 than any other game I've ever played before.
My only hope here, other than like this eventually does happen, is that at some point between now and the next, few years, someone at Xbox green lights like Underground, Tony Hawk's Underground, something like that. Like if 3 and 4 are dead, I want to go back to the American Wasteland or whatever it was. Because we've talked about on the show. I liked 1 and 2 a lot. It did feel like it was hard to go back just because it had been so long and my tastes have kind of changed. But what a bummer for Vicarious Visions to do something that was like universally critically adored. And then Blizzard's just like, all right, fuck you. You're doing what we tell you to do now.
Fucking
such a bummer.
No, it really is. And that is very much a very Activision fucking thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a very also EA thing to do, which is to suck ass.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah, it was really funny though. I listened to the clip earlier, and it seems like one of those situations where Mr. Hawk probably definitely shouldn't have said what he said, but he was like on this Twitch live stream, and he was like, "Fuck it, yeah, this is what happened."
You know what I love about him is that he's leaked so much shit. Like he leaked 1 and 2 remake. Yeah. Like he just doesn't give a shit, and I adore him for that. I also adore him for all of his tweets because they're funny as hell.
Yeah. When you can do a 900 McTwist, you don't play by the rules.
Fuck no.
I don't play by the rules either. I'm going to bring the show to an end by sharing with you guys just some new things that are coming out today and in the near future, and then we can pack it up and go home. We're updating the 2022 calendar. Fun news. This is something we talked about a few weeks ago, but it's finally here. Fall Guys is out now for free on Xbox and Switch. So if you like having a good time and laughing, Fall Guys it's like a game show as a video game. It's really fun. It's really fun. Definitely check that out. And then for the 6 of you out there that are still playing Marvel's Avengers, today they announced an expansion, The Mighty Thor: Out of Time, coming June 28th. In The Mighty Thor, you get to play as Jane Foster's Thor.
How are they still making shit for this game?
I couldn't tell you. Xbox Game Pass subscribers, you got some new games out today and coming later this month. Today you have the Shadowrun trilogy and Total War 3 Kingdoms. On June 23rd, you got FIFA 22 and Naraka Blade Point. And on July 1st, you got Far Cry 5. And then finally, could we end the show on better news?
Sucks. Far Cry 5 sucks.
I never played it, and I won't, even though I can play for free here. But could we end on better news, Cayman, than Pokemon Snap for N64 joining Nintendo Switch Online in just a few short days, June 24th.
Fuck yeah, man.
So Rose has been playing a lot of new Pokemon Snap. Apparently they released like a bunch of new shit in that game and like didn't tell anybody, or I just didn't hear about it. So she was just like clicking around in games. She was like trying to figure out what she wanted to do because she was kind of over the game she's been playing because she's been playing it for a long time. And
Stardew Valley for the 1,000th hour.
No, actually, she took. I never told you this. She took your advice and has been playing a fuck ton of my time at Porsche.
Oh no shit! Yeah, I'm trying to get Sid to play it. Fantastic.
Yeah, she hasn't been enjoying it, but I think she's just ready for something new. And so yeah, she opened up new Pokemon Snap just to break out the old camera, take a few pics of Pikachu, and there was like a bunch of new shit. And so she's been playing a lot of that. So she'll be thrilled, and I'll be thrilled because I love the original. That we can play that into this week on June 24th. Cayman,
yes,
we've reached the point in the show in which there is no plan but to say goodbye.
I love it. We just come in, guns blazing. Yeah. We have no ending ever planned.
Wheels a burning, guns a blazing. I've made the conscious decision that exactly. I've made the conscious decision that I refuse until someone tells me that I have to make a formal outro for the show. So we're just gonna wing it every time because here's the thing. Who's listening at this point? I said the show's over. People are like, I'm going to go listen to Save Trash Cinema's newest episode. You know what I mean?
It's pretty good.
But for you sweet people out there that are still listening, why don't you follow me at Twitter at Patrick Schwag, Cayman on Twitter at Kid Cayman. The Twitter for our podcast is at Spot Games Pod. Save Trash Cinema is that everywhere on socials. Instagram and TikTok for us is Spotlight Games Pod. Or hey, come on over to twitch.tv. There's been someone watching this whole time and they've said nothing. Twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod on Twitch. Follow us there so that you know when we go live. But hey, we're going live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And maybe we'll be doing some streaming soon. Who knows? By soon, I mean at any point in the future that isn't right now. So, Cayman.
Yes.
To you and our audience, I say I love you.
I love you too.
And I need to get out of this room because it feels like it's 900 degrees and I'm about to melt.
Yeah, man. I'm like swamp assing it up over here.
Yeah. Let me get a sniff.